Good evening, listeners, viewers. Thanks for joining us. This is Full-Time Live. I'm joined by Benjamin and Farrell Monk. And after what was, there's mate, no bones about it, a must-win game, Fulham come away with a point, but ultimately you have the feeling that it wasn't enough. And at this stage in the season, we just can't afford to be dropping points in these sort of games that are, by all accounts, must win. Although, albeit it was a bogey ground for us, it's been 30 games without a win there, and that stretches to 31. So, it was an ugly, ugly game on every conceivable aspect. We were just stifled. There was a lack of clear chances, and yeah, I do love doing full time, but after this game, I was like, oh, this could be a struggle. But let's start with the lineup, Farrell. So unchanged from the emphatic win against Everton a few days back. Is that more or less what you expected?
Yeah, you would expect it from any team that goes away to Everton against the odds and totally plays them off the park. The only difference is that we have a manager in Scott Parker who tends to like to change it up, like to surprise us with the odd change here and there, ones that you're not expecting. He can be very, very tricky in press conferences around who's available and who's not available. Obvious examples are Alexander Mitrovic in the lead up to the playoff final, and there are certain other situations where he's been a bit coy on certain things, and I think he probably gave it away by saying that Maja might not be available for tonight, and then he goes and starts. I think that the fact he actually said that highlighted to me that he's definitely starting tonight. But apart from that, I wouldn't have expected any other changes at all, really. And who can blame him, really? Like, I think there wasn't a particular performance on against Everton that you would think, oh, we probably need to change that, we need to change this. I think that, if there was anything, we might have changed shape slightly going into this game because of the way Burnley set up, which is very different to, well, Everton and every other team in the Premier League, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that. It was a typical Burnley at Turf Moor performance. They stifled us. They had a really high press. They stopped us sort of playing, and it was like coming up against the brick wall at times. I saw the halftime stats. We had an XG of 0.06. Then it was the sort of match where we were just ultimately Burnley on top, and 45 minutes in, we're thinking, okay, what are we going to do here to mix it up? Do you think that? Obviously, we got the goal from Aina. It was a scrappy goal ultimately, and one that was welcome, and somewhat against the run of play. Would you say, Ben?
In the second half, I think Fulham had the lion's share of everything that was good, but in the first half, we were definitely on the back foot. And as you say, they stifled us. It was like playing against Burnley like that is really, really difficult. But I think we just had a complete lack of quality all the way throughout the game. I think after about 15 minutes, we looked really leggy. Obviously, a short turnaround-ish between games, I'd say. And I think on the whole, Fulham just struggled to get the ball and keep the ball down. We always knew it was going to be a fight against Burnley, as it always is every time you play them. But they were doing, I think, Burnley today, for all 14 irrelevant people that are on the pitch from that Burnley squad, basically gave everyone a lesson in the dark arts of how to fall over as soon as you're touched, how to buy free kicks off the referee. Like, Ashley Barnes is meant to be a hard man, and built in the mold of hard man Sean Dyche, and falling over all the fucking time. So I don't know I don't quite know what Burnley was setting out to do tonight.
Let's have a look at the comments. So this one's from Carl McDonald. Positivity, lads. It's something that I always try to do after these full times when we have disappointing results, and I need a bit of pepping up. So let's go here. 6 points from Sheffield United and Palace, and we're in good place. I don't see Newcastle picking up too many points without Wilson. Okay, I went into this thinking if we don't get 3 points here, then that's pretty much curtains. Farrell, do you agree with me, or do you agree with Colm?
I'm more on the side of Colm here. I thought before the game, admittedly, I was more George, but now I'm more Colmers, especially as the game wore on. And I feel like I felt like at the start of the game, I thought we need to go for it. We need to get the win. Burnley are the team that are definitely the ones they don't want to lose this game, and we really need to capitalise on that. But then I sort of started thinking about, well, how good have Fulham been against the bigger clubs, and how good have Fulham been against all other clubs in this division? We're not a team that goes to sort of fight against just the teams in and around us. We've been very good against every team in this league, and I have no worries that we won't be competitive, not just against Sheffield United, but also I have every belief that we'll be competitive against Liverpool, maybe not Manchester City, but it's not like we're going into those games thinking, no, it's just, let's just write these ones off. Let's just try and, play a bit like Burnley. I think we have enough quality belief to get something from those games and certainly maybe get the 3 points. And I think that goes for, all the rest of the games that we have in this league. So I certainly don't think we're out of it by any stretch of the imagination. There's still plenty of points available for Fulham to pick up.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it being in the bottom three and saying we're best in the bottom team by far is obviously no real commendation on Fulham. But we are a very good football inside. We just have, a little bit of quality lacking here and there. But I do think that given that basically Sheffield United season is absolutely in the mud now, and given that they had an absolute rollicking at the hands of West Ham and lost their best defender, well, one of their best defenders in the process, it almost feels like they have not accepted, but it feels like their season at the moment is curtains. So we can definitely get 3 points out of Sheffield United, and we need to. We need to come out and have a first 45 or a whole 90 like we did against West Brom in the first 45. You know what I mean?
The only thing is they might do a Fulham when they're already relegated and just beat every other team after their fate has already been sealed.
Yeah. That would be the day. Well, we've got a comment here from Freddie Cooper. No idea who this geezer is, but he says, felt like we needed creative midfielder alongside Lamina and Reed. I think Ben knows the name I'm thinking about. Who could he be referring to there, Ben?
He's only referring to Hossabed, I think is who he's referring to. I definitely... He's referring to Jamie O'Hara because he thinks he's funny and control me. But no, I do agree with him in part that we do need another creative midfielder alongside Lamina and Reed, because today I think it was crying out for three in the middle and we didn't do it. Like literally both games we've played against Burnley, we've had Jack Cork and one other outrun us in the middle and pressure us. We just needed an extra body in there. I don't know why Scott didn't do it.
Yeah, I would say that I think you're absolutely spot on. I think the fact that Ruben Loftus-Cheek was sort of pushing too far up and leaving Lamina and Reed quite isolated, and also it was probably his worst game in quite some time, Loftus-Cheek, that we weren't getting any breaks. Burnley found it very, very easy just to do 1v1 all over the pitch, and we found it so difficult to get an extra man. And if we had two men pushed up on their centre-backs, well, that meant that we weren't pulling them apart. They found it very easy to play that system. It got better as the game went on when Loftus-Cheek was coming deeper, but he wasn't having the best game at all. And the only way that we were actually sort of opening them up was Cavallero coming on. I mean, bit of a turnaround that I'm praising Cavallero, but I thought he actually was pretty effective when he came on because he was finding pockets of space where no other player was, and he was actually pulling Burnley defenders this way and that, but obviously didn't work in the end.
I mean, we mentioned about Parker's mind game, saying that we needed rotation, and sort of led us to believe that we weren't going to see the same lineup. And Gisa, I thought we looked really stifled in the midfield up until the point that he came on, and I thought he did look really bright and sparky, and he gave us a little bit of something. Do you think that potentially should have started, Ben?
Yeah, I do. I like having the continuity in midfield, and I think that Lamina and Reed play off each other really well because they do offer different things. I think Reed really struggled tonight because they basically plonked a player on top of him for the whole game, and it really did stifle him, and that means that Lamina didn't have the space to operate that he normally does. But I actually think we should have switched, as I said, to a midfield three, and I do like the point that Carl makes here. I do think Cavallero starting would have been good. Not up front though. I do think what Scott did was right, as in bringing him on in wide areas and pushing Ruben Loftus-Cheek into the middle. It's so clear and so obvious that Loftus-Cheek loves playing down the middle. I don't know why we keep putting him out on the right-hand side. It just doesn't suit him whatsoever. I mean, a lot of people will say that he was awful or whatever, and I do agree with that. Tonight he was dreadful for the most part, but he has had a decent run of games. I'm not quite sure what Scott is seeing in him in this wide right position, other than the fact that he might be able to join or take the ball away.
I mean, we've seen it time and time again. It was, as you said, Farrell, one of his worst performances that we've seen. And I mean, at times I've kind of given him a sort of an olive branch maybe and thought that he's become a bit of a scapegoat because we know what he's capable of, but it just seems like he's just not working. And I don't know, it seems like it would be a pretty drastic turnaround at this point. I can't see him starting the next game against Sheffield, but I guess we shall see. So let's talk about the goal that we conceded. I said that Fulham were architects of our own downfall, and yeah, I mean, Jay Rodriguez absolutely selling toast in a lemon, and he's been so solid for us, and I do hate to criticize, but I mean, he's got to be doing better, hasn't he, Faz?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm actually a little bit of a fan of Jay Rodriguez. I feel like he was one of those almost players. He did get a couple of caps for England, and then he obviously
classic Burnley player. Then
yeah, he's actually quite a skillful player, and he had those two bad knee injuries. But yeah, he shouldn't be sort of skilling tossing on the left hand side and then doing him for pace. I think you could write that one off. But the real one that really frustrates me is Kenny Tete giving up on it. And not even like he just raises his hand even before the ball's even played, and I feel like it's absolutely criminal because if he keeps on running and keeps trying to gun to get back, that poor touch from Ashley Barnes, he's in there. He might not have got there, but at least he's putting more pressure on Ashley Barnes. He might have fluffed it, he might have got a toe end on it, but he doesn't even try. I think it's poor, especially at this level, and it's not the professionalism that you would expect.
Those strike partners, they just need to dead themselves off. Honestly, Ashley Barnes and Jay Rodriguez up front in 2021 Premier League, it's just not for me. I just can't stand it. Barnes has scored about 7 in the last 4 seasons. It's just I don't hate footballers that much, but tonight I think I found out that I hate Ashley Barnes.
What is it about him that draws this response out of you, Ben?
Just because he, as I said earlier, he's meant to be a massive unit who's all muscle, great in the air, he's like the epitome of expected do a job. And tonight, all he did was just fall over and try and rustle Joachim Andersen, who absolutely bossed him for the most part. And yeah, I think I got annoyed at Burnley basically having a squad of 14 completely irrelevant players to anyone that doesn't support Burnley.
All who look alike as well. They all look exactly the same, apart from maybe Dwight McNeil.
George said they all look like they've got JCB licenses.
You have to. The recruitment policy at Burnley is every player has to own a forklift license. But anyway, we digress. Let's move on to this comment from Maximus Timberlake. What a name that is! So many poor performances. Towson's worse than joining. Aina, another 1 game wonder at Everton. IOC is utterly useless. A look from bang average. Whew, harsh words here, Maximus. And has been for weeks. BDR wasn't involved. Concerning. I mean, you can criticize individual performances, but I think more than anything, we just looked a bit tired and lethargic. Yeah. And obviously, with a quick turnaround with the game on Saturday against Sheffield, which is, I said this is must win, but Sheffield at home on Saturday is must win. I had to try not to swear there. Who would you look to mix it up at all, Ben? Like, what would you be thinking if you were Scott Parker?
Oh, if I'm Scott Parker, I definitely think you have to have a little bit more control today.
All right, am I back?
You did, yeah. You went. No, you're back now. If you're Scott Parker, you have to have much more control over the game than you did tonight, because to have 45 minutes, maybe an hour of that game in complete control of Burnley just isn't what you need to be happening when you need to get points. So I'm looking for Scott to get a couple more players in that can have maybe more of a positive influence on controlling the game. Maybe it's a time for Anguissa to come in next to Reed to try and get that ball, with a little bit more quality on it into the forwards, because Maximus says that that Bobby Decordova-Reid wasn't really involved that much. To be honest with you, for the first 45, 50, maybe 60 minutes, none of our forward players were. They were feeding off scraps. If he's going to say that Bobby Decordova-Reid wasn't really involved, then he could be saying the same for Maja. He definitely could be saying the same for Lookman, who hasn't looked particularly good over the past few weeks either. But I think that's just down to a lack of service, and we need to make sure they have service against Sheffield United.
Absolutely. What are you saying?
I was going to say, I kind of felt like Burnley played the football that was a complete antidote to the way that Fulham like to play. Yeah. And like watching that game, we didn't have that kind of like good first touches. We didn't play a lot of the passes with a lot of zip. I felt like the way that Burnley were playing made our players play a bit nervously, and there was a lot of wayward, simple balls that even just half a yard either way was making the player receiving it a bit nervous, was making their first touch a bit nervous, and then the next pass a bit nervous, and then we were losing it quite a lot. And I think that was everyone over the pitch was guilty of it, and yeah, it was frustrating to watch. Burnley did everything that they needed to do, and it really unsettled us.
They did a job.
Yeah, they did a job.
That's what we come to expect from Burnley. What do we think of Maja's performance? I think, here we go. We just had from Mr. Banana Bandana, like clockwork. Josh Maja still looked decent even in an awful team performance. I would have to agree. I think he looked lively. He showed, want to get on the front foot, or want to press, but ultimately I think the service just let him down. How did you rate his performance, Ben?
I think Banana Bandana has said it right there. Looked decent in an awful performance, to be honest with you. I thought his hold-up play today was good. He brought others into play really well. I thought his distribution, especially out to wide areas when Cavaliero came on, was really good. And I think he gave a lot of problems to the Burnley centre-backs that perhaps Cavaliero playing up front wouldn't have. I do think there's a lot more to come from Maja, though, as he comes up to speed. And if he's looking this good this early, then he's going to make me eat humble pie on what I said on transfer deadline day.
Good stuff. I mean, if you're looking at our fixtures, yeah, there's not an awful lot of wiggle room there because we do have a very, very difficult start to March. I mean, Farrell, 6 points from 6, or we're done. Do you reckon?
No, I don't.
Sorry, 6 points from 6 points from 2, or we're done.
Yes.
There
you go. That's fine.
Yeah.
The way we've been drawing, 6 points from 6, sounds about
we've played 10. Yeah,
we're on plan then. This one's got Parker's plan. He's got on his whiteboard. He's just got one straight diagonal line going upwards, 1 point from one every single game and towards the end. Yeah. That's what we're going to say.
What were we going to say?
No, he's saying to you, Faz, do we need to get 6 points in the next 2 games, or are we written off?
No, I wouldn't say 6 points from 2. I think if we're getting more than average 1 point a game from now until the end of the season, I think we're giving ourselves enough of a chance. We're picking up. That means we're at least picking up a win every 2 or 3 games in that regard, and I think that would probably do us enough, especially since we're, like I said, we're not capable of just beating the teams in and around us. We are capable of beating any team in this league, and there's plenty of chances. Yeah, I certainly do think so. I mean,
is that on our day we could beat anyone kind of comment?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, we talked Everton to shreds only a few days ago, and they're the team that were gunning for Champions League spaces. And Sky commentators can talk about how they may be going for the title or some ridiculous shit that they like to come out with to big it up as much as possible. But I certainly do think that Fulham are capable of taking on any team in this league, bar Man City, who've got João Cancelo, who is the best player in the league.
My concern is that the likes of Newcastle, Burnley and Brighton are already on 25, 26 and 27 points respectively, I think. And I think this year to probably survive, you're going to be needing 35, 36. And we're on 19, I think we're on from memory. We're going to need, I think, at least 5 to 6 more wins. And if we don't get them, we're in big trouble. And it's just we need to win the 2 now. Otherwise, it could be squeaky bum time.
Oh, I've got a feeling it's going to go down to the wire. Newcastle, the last game of the season. I mean, this is what the Premier League is all about, isn't it? And so, what can we do?
And it'll be the first game that we're all allowed to go back to.
Oh, what a beautiful thing that would be. The stars have aligned. But anyway, let's stop talking about the football a little bit because it wasn't the best game. Let's face it. Farrell, I believe you've got some updates quickly about a certain survey that you'd like to mention.
Yeah. So very quickly, for people that don't know, I'm on the board of what is known as the Fulham Supporters Trust, which is a representative body
Fulham Shaggers Trust
of Fulham fans who engage with the club on a monthly basis to make sure that we can have positive changes to the club. It's Anyone is open to becoming a member. But more importantly, every year we do a Fulham fan survey. And again, that's open to all Fulham fans. And, we put it all together, and there's plenty of questions about certain important topics like what the Riverside stand is going to be like, gambling sponsorship in football, the attendance at matches during pandemic. So there's plenty of stuff that we'd like to hear from you. And we take those results and present them directly to the senior management at Fulham, including Alistair McIntosh, the CEO. But yeah, the link is in the description. I'm going to point down here like I'm a proper YouTuber. Please, it will take less than 10 minutes of your time. It means a huge amount to the Supporters Trust and to the fans that we are representing all the fans' views on a lot of these topics.
Yeah, I can vouch for Faz. I did it the other day, and it takes less than between 5 and 10 minutes, I say. And also, you're in with a shot of winning a signed shirt if you do it, aren't you?
Of course, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, there's a signed shirt up for grabs. You get into a free prize draw for entering.
Good stuff. Right, I'm just going to leave on a comment from Roger Slater. 4 points from Everton and Burnley away is a great result, especially with our history at these grounds. And I know I've had a bit of a moan this full time, but I think, on face value, we'll take that. Must-win game on Saturday. Let's look up onwards, and I'm going to hold you to that, Ben. 5 wins, and then we're in if we win the next 2, we're there or thereabouts, especially with the free fall that Newcastle seem to be in. So onwards and upwards. Yeah, let's hope for the best on Saturday. I've been George Cooper, and I've been joined by Ben and Faz. Thanks for joining us for this. Come on, you Whites.
Thanks, mate. See you later.
See you, everyone.